Welcome to the latest installment of Views from the City. I am your host, Busy J, aka Black Buddha. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Busy J. Well, it's been a while since I left you with a dope podcast to bless you with. And I'm here to talk about a spring awakening. That's right, sports fans. There's a spring awakening going on. The weather's starting to change a little bit. Baseball is about to start to take off. Currently, my New York Mets are playing the Atlanta Braves home opener up in Flushing. Top of the sixth inning, no score. The Yankees began their season last night with a lot of people expected that they would struggle in the pitching wise, and that's pretty much what happened in the first game as they got shelled 7-3 against the Tampa Bay Rays down in St. Petersburg. I think it's going to be a long season for the Yankees. I think their hitting is going to be amazing. It's going to be tremendous, but that pitching staff is just it's a patchwork. The middle relievers are great, but the starting lineup, it's questionable. It's going to be a long season. A lot of people are speculating that the Yankees could win anywhere from 75 to 85 games. I'm kind of seeing the Yankees finishing at about 500. This is a free year. I think all Yankee fans need to not really look towards this year, but look towards next year. When your young guys are still coming along the system, you still got Sanchez, you still got a great reliever that came back in Ricks and Chapman. You guys are going to be fine. Yankees fans, just, don't panic. Don't worry about Boston. Don't worry about the rest of the American League. Just think about next year when you got some big fishes to go after in the names of Bryce Harper. Guys like that. That's what next year's will be, where the Yankees return to being that evil empire and start outbidding everybody. Because, it's been a while since the Yankees were in a bidding war with anybody. And I think that's where it needs to get back to. Because, hey, let's face it, baseball's great when the Yankees are great. Yes, we know the Red Sox have the little resurgence. Yes, the Cubs have just won their first World Series in over 100 years. But just think about it. How great would baseball be if the Cubs, Red Sox, and Yankees were all viable contenders for a World Championships? So I think, with that being said, I think sky's the limits for the Yankees. Let this year be a kind of a, makeshift year. Wait and see. In terms of football, it kind of reminds me what the Yankees are probably going to do is kind of similar to what the Jets and their fans need to understand. This year, I think the Jets just need to tank, tank without, acknowledging that they're tanking because they're not going to have a good season. Draft good players. Don't worry about drafting a quarterback. There's a great class of quarterbacks coming out in the 2018 draft. I say the Jets position themselves, let them know, let their fan base have an idea you're going to have a bad year. But next year, you get yourself that game-changer quarterback. Kind of like you kind of hoped you did when Peyton Manning that year that the Jets didn't win they didn't have the worst record in the NFL and didn't secure that pick. But, back to baseball real quick. I think it's going to be the same thing with the Yankees. This is the year to play around, let your young pieces get their feet wet. But next year, the evil empire returns. As if you probably didn't know already, I'm a huge Mets fan. I love my Mets. I bleed orange and blue. I've been a lifelong Mets fan since the 80s. And I think this is their best shot at winning the championship. Yes, I know they're only 2 years removed from winning the NL pennant, but I think this is the year. Their pitching staff holds up. They acquire another bat before the trade deadline. Cespedes has a great breakout season again. I think sky's the limits for my Mets. I think the Mets could win anywhere from 90 to 94 games and probably win the NL East. There's going to be stiff competition from the Marlins, stiff competition from the Nationals. I think Atlanta's going to be on an upswing this year. But besides, win the division. That's the first thing. That's the first goal. Win the division. Don't worry about the wild card game. We don't want that wild card game like last year, that one and done. Don't put yourself in a position to have a one and done. And again, I think the sky's the limit for my Mets. Should be a great season. It's great to know baseball's coming back. It's great to know, because we had a lot of disappointment with basketball. If both New York teams will not be making the playoffs for another season. This will be the Nets' second. This will be the Knicks' fourth straight season without a postseason berth. And I gotta give some kudos to if you want a tale of two teams, look no further than the Nets and the Knicks. Yes, the Nets had an awful season, but you know what? I always equate the Nets' new management to when Barack Obama took over the United States, where it wasn't their mess; they was cleaning up someone else's mess. Which, equivalently, that mess that other person made is going to lead possibly Boston to the number one pick. Can you imagine that? The Boston Celtics, the number one pick in this year's NBA lottery, and the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. Why? Because the Nets' old regime wanted to win at all costs, and they thought bringing in the aged Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry was going to be good enough to beat LeBron, and that was so not the case. But, giving to Nets credit, I applaud their management that's in place now. They have a great coach, and they're playing hard. I've never seen a team that's, only won 17 games, but I can count on one hand how many times they got blown out this whole season. They play hard. I'll give the Nets that. They play hard. And here's a fun fact. They have more wins than the Cleveland Cavaliers from March 1st to now. Can you believe that? The Nets have 8 wins. The Cavs have 7. I'm talking about from March 1st to April 3rd, the day this podcast is being recorded. So, a testament to the Nets. They're playing out the rest of the season hard. And maybe for jobs, who knows? But hey, like I said, as long as you have a plan in place, you could ride the ship. The Nets do have a first-round pick. It'll be a high pick from Washington. It'll probably be like a 24th, 25th pick. And to see what you can do there. You got a little salary cap relief. Maybe there possibly might be a bidding war for Derrick Rose between Brooklyn and the Knicks. As you probably heard, Derrick Rose is shut down for the rest of the season with another torn meniscus in his knee. This time it's his right knee. Before it was his left knee. And now, to me, you got the most out of Derrick Rose this season. He played 64 out of the current 74 games. So that's pretty good, considering that, I don't think, and most Knicks fans didn't think he'll crack 50 games, but he did. So we'll see how that goes on. We'll see, is there a market for Derrick Rose in the offseason? As long as he can play ball, there'll always be a market. I just feel the Knicks will outbid themselves to retain his services. But I'm also of the belief that Lady Luck will strike on the Knicks this draft, and somehow, currently the Knicks are 5th in record-wise in terms of the NBA lottery. Somehow, I feel the Knicks will crack the top 3. I don't think they'll get number 1, but I feel like they'll crack the top 3. And I feel like they need to, because the last thing the NBA landscape needs is another Western team stockpiling all these high draft picks and reloading and rebuilding fast. I always hate that argument that the East is weak and the East is that and the West is so dominant. But if you do your Googles, you would see that the West, since 2001, have secured 14 number 1 picks. That 14 number 1 picks. The Minnesotas, the Denvers, the New Orleans, the Clippers. All these teams always do well in the draft, and they draft high. Why? Because for the last 17 years, the West has been top heavy. It's always been the 6 teams that are like really, really good. Maybe 5 of those teams win 50 games or whatever. But a lot of the bottom tier teams, they get beat up by those teams. And then they get beat up by the Eastern teams. And that's why they always have these high picks. So I just hope, if there was ever a year to rig the system, I hope this is the year to rig the system. Because I don't want to see Denver. I don't want to see Phoenix. God, can you imagine if the Pelicans get the number 1 pick and you already got those 2 building blocks in Boobie Cousins and Anthony Davis? Can you imagine that? That's what I don't want to see happen. I want to see the NBA get to NFL where it's competitive, balanced competition. I don't want to see a 4-team league. Because let's face it, as bad as the Knicks and Nets are right now, I'm not mad as a basketball fan that lives in New York City. I'm mad at the fact that we knew since last summer that somehow it's going to be the Cavs and the Warriors in the finals again. It's great to see that Minnesota. It's great to see Washington and Boston could possibly pull a monkey wrench in the Cavs' plans, but make no doubt about it, nobody's beating the Warriors out west. So I think we're on a collision course for that finals for the 3rd time in a row. We're going to see the Warriors and the Cavs. But again, it's spring awakening. It's a great time in the sports landscape. Baseball's back. The NFL draft is in a couple weeks. Hopefully the Giants draft themselves a tight end. I feel like the Jets will probably pick up a quarterback, even though they don't really need a quarterback. But we got time. We got more time. We'll dwell in the NFL draft special coming up in probably about a week or two. So I want to recap Wrestlemania, the showcase of the Immortals. I was not a fan of the build-up for WrestleMania. Before I even get to that, can you believe WrestleMania was 7 hours? 7 hours. I don't know if I could commit to anything, besides a cross-country flight longer than that. 7 hours of non-stop wrestling. Wow. Yeah, so I was saying the build-up wasn't all that great this year. It really was very lackluster. But I got to give the WWE credit. They paced themselves out, and it was a pretty decent WrestleMania. It was definitely better than the last two. I wouldn't say it was top 5, but it was pretty good. It was definitely a top 15 WrestleMania. Great storylines, great, like I said, pacing of the matches. A couple of questionable finishes and a couple of questionable, or just a lot of, that's what the Raw after WrestleMania is all about. It's going to fill in all the blanks. They're going to do all of that tonight. I always look at the Raw after WrestleMania as New Year's Day, because that's pretty much where all the new storylines begin and start to take shape. It looks like last night might have been the last for The Undertaker. And the Phenom, the Dead Man, has wrestled in 26 consecutive WrestleManias, and looks like that streak is over. And after he lost to Roman Reigns, he started taking off the gloves, the hat, and I'm, pretty much symbolizing that he's done. He's done as an in-ring performer, and he's gonna, retire from the sport that he's gave a lot to. He's 52 years old. He's done a lot. Even before he was the Undertaker, I remember him as Mean Mark Callis. And for you wrestling fans, Mean Mark Callis used to be with this guy Dan Spivey. They used to be called the Skyscrapers. And you see a lot of wrestlers do this move called the Hurricane Rana, aka the Frankensteiner. Did you know the Frankensteiner was invented to take down Mean Mark Callis and Dan Spivey? A little wrestling tidbit for you guys right there. So I thought the pacing was great. A lot of celebrities. Gronk got involved. That no one saw that coming. And kudos to Gronk. Gronk looks like a wrestler. He's built like a wrestler. I'm watching him in the ring. I was like, yeah, I could see him transition into wrestling one day, being something like a Kurt Angle that went from a real sport to being charismatic and great off the jump in pro wrestling. I can see that. Well, I'm sure the Patriots don't see that anytime soon. Even though kudos to the Patriots if you're giving him permission to go do what he did, do his little takedown in the middle of the square ring. Just kudos to him. But, like I always said, WrestleMania, WrestleMania is more entertainment mania. The real wrestling fans, WrestleMania for the real fans, usually is SummerSlam, where you don't get too much part-timers. But I thought Brock and Goldberg match was better than I expected. It didn't go 10 minutes, but I thought it was a better pacing than the first two encounters that we saw. Even the encounter that happened at WrestleMania 20, I thought this encounter was a lot better. A lot better build, a lot better pace, and it was some good elements to it. So I'm pretty sure Goldberg's done with the company. He came back, fulfilled his obligation. Brock, he's like, he's that super part-timer now. And it's not like he has UFC to fall back on, because I believe that door is completely shut down. So he's definitely only getting one check, and that's from WWE. And who knows how he negotiates that. But I believe this is the last year, and I'm pretty sure he'll renegotiate that. He loves the business. I kudos to him, because 15 years ago, I didn't see this happening. But Brock, he's being a super part-timer, being a company guy, we never saw this. That's what I always tell people. You never burn a bridge. And the way CM Punk has been acting, not only is he burning that bridge, but he is